Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to R.I.S.E Speaker Series. My name is Garrett Jordan. I'm a senior at Marvin Ridge High School, and today I'm joined by Dan Rossetti. Dan is the president of Ascension Sports. Dan, I want to thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
Um,
no, absolutely. I'm happy to join you today.
so would you mind just introducing yourself quickly?
Yeah, sure. So, as Garrett mentioned, I'm the president of Ascension Sports Partners, and what I do within the sports and entertainment industry is a little bit niched and it's a little bit unique. So, I provide executive search and recruiting services throughout the sports and entertainment industry. And what that means for a lot of people is I am hired on by different teams, different leagues, different agencies throughout the sports entertainment industry when they're having a hard time finding a position, finding somebody for a position. Take Dare down in Charlotte. You take take NASCAR or one of the race teams. They'll hire my firm to go out and search for. Hey, we're having a hard time finding a director of sales. They would hire my firm to go out and screen the country for applicants to present to them for the positions. But also, so on top of executive search and recruiting, I also provide career coaching services, to both candidates that are already currently within the industry, but also to, maybe recent graduating college seniors who are looking for a little bit of help and a little bit of guidance on how they can best position themselves to work within sports entertainment. I've been in the industry for about 16 years. I got my start. So I went to a small school in Ohio called Wittenberg University. Went and got a degree in business management. Went to play football there. Didn't last very long playing football, but loved the school. Kept going on, and nobody goes to school to be a recruiter or to work in executive search. It's just one of those things that you kind of learn. In my first job out of college, I worked within information technology recruiting.
Okay.
Just happened to work for a company that was hiring a lot of students. It seemed like a fun culture, seemed like a lot of young people, and it was a great fit. So I worked there for 5 years, and then bounced around in a couple different B2B sales positions to where I ultimately found got an opportunity within sports and entertainment to take my staffing and my recruiting experience and apply it to sports and entertainment. So this is the second go of running Ascension Sports Partners. I ran it from 2008 to 2017, and then was acquired by a larger search firm within sports entertainment. Joined them for about 2.5 years, and then pandemic hit, and back here and running Ascension Sports Partners again.
Okay. Well, hey, before we get into anything else, I got to ask, as a football player myself, what position did you play?
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say no. I was a place kicker,
Okay.
and
Okay.
it was when I grew up playing soccer, and it was the natural. I tried a couple positions. If you ever met me in person, I'm not the most intimidating person. I'm only about 5'5", and my positions were kind of limited in where I could go. But I did parlay my kicking experience into. I actually ended up switching and playing rugby for 9 years.
Okay.
So I got an opportunity to play in college and then play after college in a bunch of different men's clubs around the different cities that I lived in. So it was a lot of fun, but always, it got me ready for a lot of pressure just because everybody expects you to make every kick that no matter what the situation is, you're expected to make it out there. So.
Yeah, for sure. Man, rugby's tough. No pads.
Yeah, it's one that I've learned. I've got a lot of respect for everybody who's ever played, and and it's one of those things. And this kind of parlays nicely into our discussion today of, the people that you meet and the skills that you acquire from playing team sports or having an opportunity to be around other individuals helps you network yourself in life. I've met many a person within the industry who played rugby or played football or played a sport as well, and there's just an instant bond that you can start talking about that you can leverage down the road as just a future connection. So definitely don't shy away from from team sports. So
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it right there. It's something big that I wanted to talk to you about.
yeah.
Networking.
Mhm.
So networking is something when I've talked to people from the industry, they say network, network, network of most important thing that you can do. You really have a unique perspective on that
Yeah.
because you are hiring people and connecting them with employers. What would you kind of say is the most important part of that job?
Yeah. So as it relates to networking, it is key and it is paramount for everything in life. I mean, and the name of the game to me for candidates that I speak with, Garrett, is all about relevancy. How are you becoming relevant to the organizations, whether you're in a sales capacity, a marketing capacity, a job search capacity? How are you making your name stick out? And one of the best ways is obviously networking. So it's building a list and reaching out to people and asking, hey, do you know somebody who works at this organization? Would you mind making an introduction? When you see an article that comes up in a local trade magazine about sports entertainment, hey, Tepper Sports and Entertainment, I saw you guys just did this. That's very interesting. I'd love to hear more. It's building that network. And you'll hear it a lot of times in sports and entertainment that there's a lot of 6 degrees of separation. And it's 100% true that people you've worked with then move on and they take other roles in other organizations, but the network stays and we're all kind of tied to one another very closely. I mean, LinkedIn gives you three connections, of as far as just the third connection. If you even make it to that, I'd be very surprised for anybody that's in sports entertainment. So I can't stress enough to just figure out how you position yourself to get to know more and more people. And not everybody, with networking, I think the common misnomer is that you're expecting a quick response or like instant gratification when you network with them.
Right.
This is a marathon, not a sprint. Like you're building the foundation for the long-term play here. So as you go into networking, think about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about kind of your job, especially connecting qualified applicants with your clients, which are the teams or the organizations. What kind of process do you guys go through to weed out some of these applicants, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So typically, it starts from the top and it starts with the organizations and our industry as a whole. Our industry has a track record in the past of hiring only people from within sports and entertainment. So you typically have had to have a role, an internship, a job, just experience within sports entertainment to even get a look. And that's been very hard for a lot of candidates that I speak with outside of the industry because they've never had a chance. Well, COVID-19 came along, pandemic came along, and I think there's been a little bit of a cultural shift that's gone on within our industry to where I think now people are looking for people who have unique experiences and maybe bring a different point of view to the overall, day-to-day job responsibilities that they may have. There's still a bulk that will only look for people that have, worked within the industry, but I think it's starting to creep up to where you're starting to see more and more organizations that are willing to look outside the box for people. And as long as you have, the tangible skills, like as far as, culturally, do you fit the culture? Like you're finding more and more organizations want to hire people that are they're good people and they match with the culture that they're trying to build at that company and that organization. So those are the things that, I stress to rising college students, rising, entry-level people is, entry-level applicants is, work on your soft skills. You'll hear, we can talk about them a little bit later as far as soft skills and how important they are. But, so the process will go along back to your question of, I sit and I screen and I have several conversations with the candidates to find out where their strengths lie, especially as they match up with the job description and what's hidden on the job description that the organization tells me that they're looking for. So I will interview them in person at least twice. Now with Zoom and everything else, it's becoming more prevalent to have face-to-face interviews. Even though I'm in Cincinnati and you're in Charlotte, we can still have a conversation and I can get a read and a feel for the type of person that you are. But, I will screen them to identify who maybe the top 5 to 7 candidates are for that client's wish list. The client will come to me and say, hey Dan, I'm looking for A, B, C, D, and E. Okay. I might come back to them and say, these candidates, 5 of these candidates have A, B, C, D, E. 2 of these candidates are really strong in A, B, and C, but they don't have D and E. So you're going to have to try and figure out what's most important for what you're looking for in the role.
Okay. So it kind of sounds to me like you guys don't have like a cookie cutter thing that you do. You're like, I'm going to interview this guy. That's it. it seems that you kind of have to listen to your client, and then if they want A, B, C, and D, and then, you know, the next client may want F and G,
Yep.
you know.
Nope, that is absolutely correct. I mean, there is no tried and true, like, hey, this is it. And it's the same way. And to kind of take us off a little path as it relates to like resumes, and as you go out there and interviewing and so forth, you know, the biggest mistake that I see a lot of candidates make is they make one resume for whatever job that they're interviewing for. That's not going to work anymore. Like that, you know, you need to tailor your your resume towards the job experience. I mean, the job description in itself, Garrett, will give you essentially the keywords and the answers that the client's looking for in this person. So if you have that experience, you've got to make sure that that comes out in your resume. Otherwise, you're not going to make it through the filter. You're not going to make it through the system. You're not going to make it into an interview. So, I mean, like they give you it's like an open book. It's like an open book test. I mean, like they're giving you the answers because they're telling you, I need someone with 2 years experience of sales and you know, in business to business sales or business to consumer sales, or I need someone with a marketing experience of X, Y, and Z, or digital or social marketing experience. Like they're giving it to you. So you've got to frame your resume to highlight those things a little bit more than maybe, yeah, you know what? They're looking for someone with more marketing experience, not as much sales experience. I've got, you know, I want to highlight that and kind of mirror that in my approach.
Marketing more.
Yep.
Yep. So there's no secret sauce. There's nothing that
I wish there was a magic pill, Garrett, because I would be absolutely retired now at 45 because I would have sold that thing. But no, I mean, there's not. I mean, the tried and true methods are networking. You know, put yourself out there. You've got to be in front of, and you've got to, you know, in front of people, and you've got to talk to people, represent yourself and identify the biggest thing that I implore to students, especially when they're coming out, and even candidates to this day that may have 5 to 7 years experience in the business, is what are you bringing to my organization that makes me want to have to hire you, or at least to want to interview you? What are you offering that is so different than every other applicant? I mean, the sports and entertainment industry, Garrett, is notorious for, they get thousands upon thousands of applications for a ticket sales, a ticket sales position, a marketing position, a communications position. They get so many candidates that if you don't add value, you know what? There's 1,000 people out the door. I'm going to find someone who does.
Right.
So when you get your chance, you have to be ready. You have to be prepared to tell people why you're the right fit for this organization. You can't freeze up because they're going to find somebody who will do it.
Right. And that kind of leads me into another question that I did want to ask you. This one's kind of two-pronged, I would say. What advice would you give to a high schooler who's interested in getting into the sports business industry? Networking, you mentioned.
Yep.
Soft skills, you mentioned.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the biggest things are, and I, you know, I use an acronym, you know, that I put together called the Ascend system. You know, and the A stands for assessing and adapting. So first you need to really assess why you would want to work in sports entertainment. It's glamorous, it's fun, but you know what? It's a lot of hours, it's a lot of nights, it's a lot of weekends, it's a lot of holidays. Typically, you're really not getting paid as much as some of your friends who might join the financial or banking industry or pharmaceutical sales or engineering or any of those. Like you have to understand that it's a business. And we are, you know, I always joke because one of my friends, when they work for the Bengals here in Cincinnati, you know, they would joke and say, well, I'm not hanging out with Joe Burrow on a Friday night. Like, I think there's a lot of people who think getting into sports entertainment, oh yeah, I'm hanging out and we're hanging out with the players. No, I mean, there is complete separation between the two, and you rarely will see them. And your job is business, and it is a business. So once you kind of figure out what's important, then you can kind of move along into the next steps. And I wanted to share, I think I can share a screen. I wanted to share, can you undo that real quick? I think if you go down to share screen.
Yep. I think you should be on there.
Yep, there I go.
There you go.
Oh, wait, I want to pull up. Hold on here.
Okay, I got it. There we go.
Can you see this career options within sports?
Try it one more time. I just changed the option there.
There it is. Okay.
Perfect.
So I want to show you this screen. This is important because I think a lot of people coming into the industry also have this mistake and kind of this belief that they're going to focus in on this top left part, which is
Okay.
professional sports, which is, okay, I'm going to go work for the Major League Baseball team or the NFL or the NBA or the NHL or MLS.
I'm
I'm going to
working
work
for
for
the
these.
Bengals. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's it. Like, and that is a small, minute. I think it's less than 6% of the total jobs as it relates to sports and entertainment. So, I mean, hold on, I want to make this full screen mode. Okay. Because this is better. So as you can look there, there's opportunities within college sports. There's people who sell ticketing for colleges. They sell sponsorships for colleges. They work within the athletic departments. You go to motorsports, you're in the hub of it right there in with NASCAR, but you could also work for the race teams. You got live events. You got the Kentucky Derby. You've got bowl games. You go down, you have, you have UFC, you have the PGA, you have, and you can look at this sheet and see that there are so many opportunities for you to work within sports that don't just give up because maybe the local team passed on you.
Right.
Go ahead and look there. If you want to work in sports, there is an opportunity to work in sports and entertainment. It may not be your dream position, but there is an opportunity because there are a lot of jobs that go work within sports and entertainment. So don't be, as I put down at the bottom of this, don't be afraid to think outside the box because there are avenues to get you within working in sports and entertainment. And then once you're in, we are very much like a fraternity sorority kind of situation to where it's just like once you've proven you can kind of make your way in, you kind of are in the circle of trust. If you
Yeah.
ever see Meet the Parents, like kind of you're in the circle of trust. So like you then can be like, okay, when you go to networking events and you're talking to other people, oh well, if the Cincinnati Reds hired you, well then you must have some qualifications that make you viable for other positions. So as you go in, you assess as a high school student is you assess colleges and programs, think about that and think about why do you really want to work in there and then go, okay, what do I potentially want to do? And you may not know right away, but think about this as you go in. The other thing that I would tell high school students going into college is if you're really dead set on being within sports and entertainment, like this is it, that's absolutely what I'm going to do. There's a lot of great programs that offer you bachelor's degrees in sport, kind of sports management.
Yeah.
You can get a degree in sports management and they're great, but like, that's not going to help you if for whatever reason you don't end up in sports and entertainment. So if you do that, you've kind of made the decision and I'm going to go full bore ahead. I'm going to do whatever it takes to find an opportunity within sports and entertainment. If you think there's like, oh, I'm interested and it's intriguing, then I would recommend either finding, taking that first year and figuring it out. Because I also know a lot of people, Garrett, that, that they are, they will, that come from business degrees, come from political science degrees, that come from, maybe a marketing degree, and maybe, maybe, English or, kind of like, something completely off the wall.
Yeah.
They still can find an opportunity, but they also makes them a little more well-rounded to where, hey, look, if sports don't work out, I can go somewhere else. So think about that as you get into looking at colleges and obviously the departments and the programs that you want to explore.
I think that's great advice. Just to be kind of that well-rounded person. You don't,
Yeah.
if you want to chase the sports industry, you can do that. If you don't, you can go take your degree and do something else.
Yeah. And you can take you can take that degree and still go after the sports and entertainment industry, but you just don't pigeonhole yourself just to the sports and entertainment industry.
So I wanted to ask you this question.
Yeah.
When you're looking at an applicant personally, what is the thing that impresses you most about an applicant?
So if we're talking about on paper, we'll start the basic, which is before I even get them on the phone, what stands out? You have to make a resume that is going to grab the attention of the person who's the hiring manager. There's I think the statistic is still true today. It was a few years ago, but I still think it's true today that people like myself, I read over resumes. You got 7 seconds to grab my attention because I've just got so many that I got to go through. If you don't have what it takes to kind of in that first 7 seconds, I'm already passing you by because I've got to move on to the next person. So you've got to make sure that you have your resume in order. And what that means is, that it's succinctly put. It's, I mean, like it labels things correctly. Like there's no spelling errors, there's no grammatical errors, there's no date errors. I mean, I know it sounds so minute that you would knock somebody out of contention for it,
Well, don't
but
give them a reason to say no, right?
exactly. I tell, students, have an email address that is a legitimate email address. I mean, I've seen too many times the goofy, kind of, what was the one, like, dancing silly queen 54, I mean, like,
Yeah.
just think about this in a professional sense, as well as have an email or have a phone number that you can be reached at. I can't, I mean, like when I call, you
You
got
got
about
to.
24 hours. Yeah, you got about 24 hours. Then I'm moving on. So if you don't check that phone, then don't put it on your resume. So those are the things on paper I'm initially looking at is, okay, I'm looking for, as we talked about earlier, Garrett, I'm looking for A, B, C, D, E. Okay, I've got to see that I've got to easily be able to track that down on your
Right.
paper and on your resume. Yeah, exactly. In person, it's the same thing. I mean, it's the same old story. It's, do you present well? Are you well spoken? Can you put out your thoughts? Everybody's got a story about a success that they have. Do you have a second story? Do you have a third story? Do you have, can you explain why, again, as we talked about earlier, why I should hire you? If I ask
Right.
you just simply, why should I hire you? Can you go into a very nice, succinct, kind of, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I can bring to your organization. You've mentioned that you need this. I can do that and also bring you this, this, and this.
Right.
So it's practice. I mean, those are the things. A lot of people are very flippant about applying for positions, and then when they get the call, it's like, oh, I didn't practice for this interview. Or I didn't think about this interview. No, you need to practice. It's just like anything else as you're looking for a career. So those are the things. Are you presentable? Or, if I'm hiring for a digital kind of social media behind the scenes role, I may not need you to be as buttoned up as if I have you in a sales capacity, I have you customer facing, I have you in client service. I need you to be presentable. I need you to be able to speak eloquently. I need you to kind of fit the mold. But if I have you behind the scenes, I may not, I may be able to let that slide a little bit. So
Definitely good first impressions are key. I wanted to ask you this, I like to
yeah.
ask people who work in the industry this question. Do you have a favorite story or anecdote from your time, from your job? Somebody come into an interview, do something really goofy, something like that.
Oh man, no, that's a great question. Um, I think the biggest thing is to take away is we have a lot of fun in this industry. I mean? Like these are people that you end up like you just want to hang out with. I mean, like, just because
Yeah.
we're all typically, a lot of us are the same personalities, but no, I've had people that have tried unique ways to get their resume into me or kind of get ahead of the, kind of ahead of the curve or kind of be the ones that are in front of me. And, I've seen people that have done crazy things. Like they will send me like a shoe and they will say, hey, I'm just trying to get my foot in the door.
Oh,
And they will do things
oh,
like that, which 30 years ago was really unique and creative. Nowadays, not so much. So there's a lot of that we're just, it's people trying to just do crazy, unique things to do that. But I've had interviews, I've had searches where, I've had interviews where people have maybe not displayed the best traits in an interview, as far as they go out to dinner and maybe have one or two many
I got
adult
you.
beverages.
Yep.
And I mean, like, it's just, I mean, these are things that happen because I deal with the most intangible product and commodity there is out there, and that is humans. And somebody can be on board 99 times out of 100, but then that last second go and do something completely off the wall, and there's nothing I can do about it. Like, I mean, I can't. They're people. I just,
Yep.
it's an ebbs and flows, and it's always a roller coaster with dealing with the human world. But the last thing I wanted to say, and I know you didn't ask, but kind of is just a little, especially for your generation as they're coming in, is really think about your social media presence.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
I can't stress it enough that we check. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of students and a lot of, kind of, graduating seniors, they don't think that we will check those things. We will check those things.
Yeah.
And you can have an opinion on Twitter, on Instagram. You can do things where you can voice your opinion. You just have to realize there may be consequences that come along with it, that an organization may look at that as, that's really cool. I don't want you on my team. I don't want you on my group.
Yeah.
Or you may find one that goes, oh my gosh, I love how you voice your opinion. You stress that. You just have to take that all into account as you put together that, people are checking your Facebook. They're checking, they're checking everything. Your Instagram, they're looking you up. They're going to check you out. So don't be, don't be representative of something that you wouldn't want to be represented out there. So.
Got you. I wanted to ask you one quick
Yeah.
question. I don't want to take too much of your time. Do you have any interviewing tips for high school seniors who maybe haven't interviewed before or are kind of shy or nervous?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the easiest one is to practice. I mean, and I know that sounds like a really basic, simple thing, but you'd be surprised, as I mentioned earlier, that how many people don't give it the thought and the time that they need to. I mean, there's every question you could possibly imagine that an interviewer would ask you is probably on the internet. And you can probably find it and then find what are the best answers that go along with it. So definitely prepare, find a comfort, like think about what makes you unique, what makes you interesting. Because again, some people may look at you and okay, work is great, but do I fit you? Just, do I get a sense that you just are the type of person that I want to spend, I mean, especially in sports and entertainment, that I want to spend 60, 70 hours with a week. Like, I mean, like, hone in on what those strengths are. And those are the soft skills, I mean, we didn't, and that's for another time and another call. But like, those are the things that are important too, which is, do you have good verbal skills? Can you write well? Do you present yourself well? Do you come up with solutions? Like, are you somebody that aren't just seeking, isn't just seeking problems out and reporting those to the hiring manager and saying, there's a problem here, there's a problem there. They're the person that's saying, there's a problem here, and here's how I think we should fix it. Like, those are the things now that people want. Like, being just someone who identifies it isn't good enough anymore. Like, what are you doing? What are your suggestions? They may not always be 100% right. They may not always be the ones that I may choose as a hiring manager, that ultimately we do. But I want to hear that you've got, you're thinking about solutions. So those are the things that, I mean, just find a comfort spot and just, but it's like public speaking. The more you do it, the better you become at it, just because that fear starts to go away, because everybody gets nervous in interviews. Everybody, most people, and there's a rare few that don't get nervous when they speak in front of a crowd, I mean, and all it is just because they've just become comfortable and they've become experts on what they're presenting. So become an expert on yourself, become an expert on myself of why I'm going through this. But also, one last little tidbit is also always remember that you're interviewing them too. They've got to sell you on why you should come work here. And if they don't, then it's probably not a great job. I mean, like, it's probably not going to be the best situation for you. And I understand there may be opportunities where it's just, hey, I need money and I need to take a Christmas job or a holiday job. And, I'm going to be home for 6 weeks and I just need something to hold me over. Okay, that's a different story. But if it's a role that you're really interested in for like a summer internship or something like that, getting involved with the wrong organization is sometimes even worse than not getting an internship at all. Right. So to think about that, always ask questions, always be prepared for questions. That's one of my biggest pet peeves and of people that I interview is when they don't have any questions to ask me at the end of the conversation. Because even though I've been doing this for a long time, I know I haven't asked everything. And, I mean, like, it's your chance to really put some thoughtful, kind of dialogue into the conversation to say, oh, I noticed your organization does this, or I noticed your company did this. Always have one or two questions that you ask at the end of the conversation.
Great advice. Well, I just wanted to thank you so much for your time today. And I wanted to thank everybody that tuned in to watch this speaker series. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great weekend. Thanks, Garrett.
You too.